Hello everybody. Today we'll discuss about how to buy and how to negotiate with the existing companies' purchasings. Well, honestly, I have to tell you, this relates to my 15-20 years actual experience. So I will intensify my experience, condense it to this 15-20 minutes lecture. So please listen carefully. Okay, now we'll start. Okay, buying existing business. Well, anyway, buying is buying. Well, if you are buying some lunch or dinners, or buying your smartphones, buying your TVs, or buying sheep or big cows or goats or livestock, it's different. But buying existing business is existing organizations consisting of the peoples and fixed assets, liquid assets. Anyway, it's like a living creature. So first you have to understand market for buying and selling business. Okay. Very surprisingly, some of the statistics in the United States, a recent survey shows 60% of the business owners, they want to sell their own companies. Why? There are lots of reasons. Well, some business owners is pretty old, already 65, 70 years old. So therefore they want to retire and sell his business in a good price, okay, to enjoy after retirement life. Or some more young businessman, about 30, 35 years old, and then he has already achieved certain business success and good business, still profitable, but he rather tired of or exhausted or lost interest his own business. Rather he will like to start new business. Well, just like a children are playing around new toys, maybe about a few months, and then bored it, and then wants to buy new toys, something like this. Okay, so therefore there are lots of people who want to sell own business. Well, some business may be poor operations. Well, some owners don't want to continue this loss-making companies. Maybe, however, it is cheaper just to get out of this business. Well, some of the people will come to buy these poor companies and make it more profitable. In 1980s, most of the 60-70% of the Harvard Business School graduates, they wanted to buy poor companies and make it more profitable companies and sell it. Well, this kind of things happens. The internationally famous one, Occidental Petroleum, Arnold Hammer, 1950s or 60s, he has already retired, and then retired happy life in somewhere in California. Well, he was bored his retired life and found out very rotten and corrupted, some profit is very poor exploration oil company. Well, he purchased it and then became very successful and now grown into what is Occidental Petroleum. Okay, so therefore a recent survey of the United States shows 60% of the business owners wants to sell their companies. Okay, well, especially these days, as you know, you are maybe boring staying at home because of the coronavirus. So lots of business suffered because of the coronavirus. They are forced to close their shops and restaurants a few months, and then some companies have to close their business. So therefore, even in a very good business, they are forced to close down or to sell in a cheaper price. So therefore, this is in a sense, it's a very big chance. Recently, one of the Japanese very good French restaurant in Tokyo, well, owner said, well, we can't continue this business anymore. And then their employees even wanted to stay, even though our salaries and wages becomes half. All right, please continue business. But owners decided, well, we cannot continue our business. Okay, accumulating more loss. So he closed down, unfortunately. So this kind of things happen. This is a peculiar situation of the current situation in the world. But you have to be careful. Buying existing business is not a simple thing. Sometimes it's more difficult than starting the new business from the scratch, because existing business is not a materials. It's not buying just like simple smartphones or laptop computers. Laptop computers, well, performance specifications and the price. Very simple buyings. But existing business is a living creature. They are consisting of the peoples and then moving around. Anything may happen. Okay. So analyzing and evaluating an existing business requires much more time and effort required than developing a new business from the very scratch. I know the listeners of this lecture is fourth year, final year of the engineering students. So during your coursework, you have already studied about engineering economics, all right? And then you know how to calculate discount cash flow analysis, internal rate of return analysis. You have that is used when you are buying some equipments or some very expensive plants. Okay. Well, this same internal rate of return and DCF calculation can be used for buying the existing business. Treating like existing business is like a profit-making machines or equipments. For the coming 10 years, how much profits can create. Okay, so you can use your DCF and IRR calculations. Okay, so now we are going step by step how to do it, to buying the new business or existing business. Well, first you have to know advantages and disadvantages of buying existing business. Advantages is so many, just listed here. All these things is, you'll be surprised, one line. But if you really study from this one line, there are lots of informations behind the scenes. Okay, successful business. Okay, if you are buying, well, normally if you want to buy business, maybe you are not interested in unsuccessful business. Most of them is a successful business. Well, continue to be successful. Yes, successful business currently is doing very well, and you can expect continue to be successful. So that is one of the businesses. Rather than you start completely new business from the scratch. Okay, you don't know, but existing business successful one, you can reasonably expect continue to be successful. And number 2, and also in existing business there are experienced employees, skilled workers, experienced management teams in place. Of course, good business teams, they can continue work with you after you purchase this business. Well, other things is also you have already learned from some marketing courses, Michael Porter's 5 threads. Okay, when you are doing business and marketing, there are 5 threads: suppliers, okay, clients, right, competitors, newcomers, all right, all these people are threads. Existing business, they have already the very efficient networks of the suppliers, supply chain management. If you want to establish new business, you have to build up your own supply chains. Another nuisance things, but suppliers network is already available when you are buying the existing business. And customers and clients is already exists. Okay, if you are buying some biryani restaurants, that biryani restaurants have already their own customers. If you are buying some supermarkets in the GIK campus, they are existing customers, students, faculty, pupils, however they are small. Okay, and superior locations. All right, if you are starting new business, first you have to select the good locations. If you start supermarkets, where is the best locations? You have to buy or rent the house, superior location for your business or your office. Already they have certain locations, no headaches. You can use existing locations. And then ready available production equipments available. Yeah, production equipments and all these sort of hardware facilities to produce or manufacturers, ready-made, ready available. Okay, of course you have to pay for these things, and also already finished products inventory is available in the factory storage or storage house. All right, and also they have already established some good trade credit is available. Okay, good relations with the financial circles, bankers, facilities. Okay, previous owners' experience and expertise available. This is most important things. Previous owners' experience. Well, if you purchase some good companies, some of the good business teams, well, they had a very good relations with the previous owners and the previous top managements. Well, the new top teams is a new owners comes, and then existing managers, maybe they don't have continue to be a good relations with them. They may leave from the companies. Once you purchase good companies, you have to try your best to keep these good management teams as much as possible. Don't let them leave, because they have a previous owner's experience and expertise. Of course, there are good cultures and bad management cultures. You have to remove these bad cultures. But these previous owners' experience, expertise still exists. Okay, you have to use as much as possible. And easier access to financing, that is most important. The previous customers, our previous owners, they have already established good relations with the bankers, the most important monies. Okay, if you start from the very scratch, the new business, you have to start up to build up good relations with the bankers. Unless you are already established businessman in a big companies, and then it's a different stories. But when you are young and your name is not well known to the bankers, financing circles, you have to establish your good reputations among them. But if you are purchased good existing business, and then there are already established reputations, well, then finally sometimes, well, sometimes it's best to just a moment, sorry, then okay, sometimes high value business is available. Well, people tend to think when you are buying business and then someone wants to sell, and someone says, well, the companies in the markets to be sold, well, maybe it's very good companies, they don't sell themselves, so maybe the available business for selling in the market is not good. There is something like this preoccupations already happens. But sometimes, well, most probably, very high value business is available in the market. Surprisingly, even the good companies want to sell their business depending on the market situations. You get impression. For example, in oil industries, ExxonMobil company is famous for buying good existing available companies. Okay. Well, some companies is successful in oil industries, successful to hit very big potential jackpot. But unfortunately, if you hit good potential possible oil producing wells, small companies, they are lack of financial resources, so therefore they need more financings, but they cannot collect the necessary funds. Then the ExxonMobils or Shells or BPs comes up here. Okay, we will help financially, instead of giving certain equity portion of that companies. Okay, so then they can buy in a good conditions, good terms, high value businesses. So that may happen. Okay, all these are good advantages for a buyer's point of view. There are disadvantages. Okay, we'll see. Disadvantages. Well, if you want to buy existing business, initial cash requirements is very high. Okay, so your funds will sink initially. You have to have a certain strength of the financial power. Or target business may be losing money because of their timings or the marketing. Well, they made some mistakes, or maybe losing some monies because of the weakness of the financials. They didn't have a good terms with bankers, so they are continuously losing monies, or maybe bad managements or something. They have a very big potential for the assets to produce good money in future, but at this moment they are continuing to lose money. Okay, so therefore you have to be careful how much you can maintain your financial strength after you purchased it. Initial cash flow management, and then how to cope with continuous losing money. Because due to high inventory costs, because some of the companies, because of the bad management of the inventory costs going up, you know that certain inventory controls your engineering students. Okay, and also some of the companies, well, previously very successful, their human cost becomes very expensive. For example, you already know how miserable situation of the General Motors in the United States a few years ago. One time, General Motors was the kings of the Michigan states. Okay, General Motors profits is American profits. They are proud of it. And Toyota came to assist or help this GM, and then Toyota was very surprised. General Motors retired managers, retired workers, they are still keeping some privileges of healthcare system, GM's very handsome healthcare systems, and also very high salaries. Well, this things is a previously good companies, they are suffering high human costs. Okay, and also inadequate accounts receivables. Sometimes they give very handsome and lenient accounts receivable terms, 90 days credit they give, okay, to their clients. Well, more than 90 days credit have to be very careful, sometimes very risky to be repaid. Okay, and also high rental costs, lease rates, you have to be careful to check it. And sometimes, for example, if you purchase some supermarket chain networks, poor locations, maybe they are casual analysis of the locations and then poor locations. And also intense competitions, low product prices. Well, from my own experience, I started my career very high technological industries, that is electron microscopes in Japan. Electron microscope is a very competitive market, very highly competitive. Our competitors were Hitachi's, Philips, well, those days is RCA's, even Toshiba's. Well, big competitors. So therefore, even though the machines are very high performance, unfortunately market is highly competitive. So therefore profit margin is going down. So relatively medium and smaller companies suffer profits. That suffered. Still that company exists, called JOL companies. Well, intense competitions, low product prices, profit margin is smaller. You have to be very careful. And losses due to employees theft. That is some retail shops. Continuous employees theft, shoplifting, and fraud. These have to be careful. So therefore, target business may be continuously losing money. So that is disadvantages for buying the business. Okay. Now, we have to be a little bit practical. Maybe you don't have any experience these kind of things. So just to try to understand steps in acquiring a business. First, when you are thinking, okay, we have to expand our business in a new market in China or America or Europe or somewhere, what to do? Well, there are lots of sources for information. So therefore, you have to list up your possible good candidates to be purchased and approach to that candidates. Well, directly approach, very diplomatically, and then checks that company's information. If you find out this company or candidates have certain interest to sell their company, not whole of their companies, some of their departments or some of their product lines, okay, and then you can purchase that ones. Just like Jack Welch is General Electric. Well, they wanted to unprofitable portions, departments, they wanted to sell it. Well, there are lots of consultants available. These consultants also working, representing buyer's side and seller's side. And they, after successful merger and acquisition, they will get certain margins. So all sorts of channels is available to look for good candidates for selling the market, selling the business. And then after find out, signing a non-disclosure documents. This is second steps. Before starting your negotiation, your candidates to be purchased, you have to have certain agreements, something like keeping the delicate and sophisticated information not to be disclosed to third parties. Otherwise, it will be a confusion happens. Once we started negotiation, during this course of negotiations, don't contact with some other parties or something, and then some very much sophisticated or delicate informations not to be disclosed to the third parties. So signing the non-disclosure documents, this is important steps, both from buyers and sellers side. Okay, and sign a letter of intent. Okay, at this moment we'll only limited our negotiation with you. Okay, that is letter of intent. Well, once you start negotiation to buy certain companies, if it is a big companies, there are lots of effects happens to your stock market price goes up and downs depending on the development of negotiations. If you are buying small companies, biryani shops or barber shops or laundry shops, that is a simple things, but still you need a non-disclosure documents. Okay, sign a letter of intent. Otherwise, when you are negotiating with the target business, well, lots of third parties will come, and then lots of noises comes, and then complicate negotiation, and negotiation will become everlasting. So therefore, you have to limit. Okay, when we are talking with you, only with you we are talking. So this is letter of intent. And buyer's due diligence. Well, seller side, when we are negotiating, okay, if you ask certain questions, and then the questions has to be answered in a due diligence, not to be, well, insurer type of business. Okay, efficiencies, and draft the purchase agreement. Final stage, you have to draft purchase agreements. Well, to reach this stage, you have to have very good, efficient consultants and legal advisors and accountants. Okay, and then finally close the final deal, which means signs. Okay, but even though you signed it, that is not the end of successful business acquisitions, and then begins the continuing transition. After successful merger and purchase, you have to have a more improved, efficient management to grow dispurchased companies more rapidly, efficiently. Well, that is the steps for acquiring business. Well, there are lots of pros and cons. Rather you start from the very scratch new business, or buying the existing companies. Well, that's up to, depends on your experience and your industry's characteristics. Certain industries is suitable for buying new business. For certain industries, maybe better to start from the very beginnings. So that's all up to you. Now, this is the steps we discussed. During these steps, there are lots of negotiations comes in. Okay. Negotiations, as you know, I don't know, some of you had already certain negotiations. Negotiations, lots of negotiations you have. Good, efficient negotiations. We are faculty members, teachers, professors, and also negotiations with your parents. Well, what kind of negotiations you have? Maybe negotiations with your girlfriend or boyfriend. Well, you have to be very much well prepared. Just like haphazard ways in things, you may fail in negotiations. You have to be well prepared. Okay, and also you have to consider difference between your position and your interest. Same things, your position and interest, the other party. Okay, negotiation always happens between 2 parties or 3 parties, 4 parties. So you have to analyze the other party's position and interest, as well as your own position and interest. Okay. And then you have to develop the right mindset of the other parties. Okay. If unfortunately the other party have a very bad mindset, only considering his interest only or her interest only, well, that negotiation cannot be successful. Negotiations, we have to reach as much as possible, possibly win-win relations. Okay, 100% zero-sum game. One party will get everything and one party lose everything. Well, this is not a war, so negotiation cannot be successful. All right, seller's side, buyer's side. Well, you have to get certain kind of the win-win negotiations. Well, when you are starting negotiations, the famous word is a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiation agreement. Well, unfortunately, all the negotiation cannot be successful. Some negotiation, well, unfortunately, getting in failure, and some negotiation can be a successful. But always you have to have what is your most the available bottom lines, best alternatives. Well, the worst case is just to thank you very much, we cannot agree you, and then just to finish or leave negotiations. Or this is the best bottom lines which is acceptable for you. You have to always keep in mind, beyond this limits of the points, negotiation cannot be reached. So you have to always keep in mind best alternative to negotiation agreements. Okay, and also you have to keep your emotions in check. we are human beings, so therefore sometimes very much emotional. Okay. You have to keep your emotions as calm as possible, and then find out best agreeable positions for you and for the other side. So keep your emotions in a very controllable conditions. Okay. And also, number 6, this is a traps. Don't fall into the rules trap. There are certain rules, certain organizations, the other parties which is to be negotiated, they have the rules. Their procedures and policies of yourself, and also the other party also they have their own procedures and rules of their companies. If A company and B company, the negotiation parties, if they stick on their own rules and the games, it is a miserable conditions. Okay. Recently it happens, say maybe some of you might have looked at YouTubes. For example, one of the newspaper company in Germany, they criticized China. Okay, you generated all the troubles in the world, so you have to pay us 165 billion dollars. Then China became very angry about it. Well, they are both sides terribly emotional. Well, China is based on their long time cultures and their mindsets, nationalities. They have their own rules. In Germany also they have their own rules, western side of the rules. If they want to stick on their own rules, and that becomes terrible conditions. Don't fall into the rules trap. That is a culture differences. Okay. All right. And then number 7, these are rather tactical things. I think I personally advise you, even in the Pakistan scenes, sometimes it's best to remain silent. Well, I lived through my young days, more than 30 years, spent in America, UK, Middle East, and also traveled quite a lot, Southeast Asia. Well, some countries they have a different characteristics. Japanese are sometimes mostly quiet and calm. Americans and Brazilians are very much emotional. Indians and Pakistani peoples, unfortunately, they speak quite a lot without listening the other parties what they are saying. Speak, speak, speak. Well, from my own understanding, Arab peoples, surprisingly, they are sometimes very quiet and remain silent. When you are talking negotiations, sometimes it's best to remain silent. Then other parties may think and then give certain time to guess or infer what you are thinking. So, continuously speaking, sometimes lose the track of what the other party is thinking. Okay, so that is some sort of tactics. Okay, maybe I think you have not too much significant negotiation experience. Maybe in future you can understand. Well, thank you very much. And then we have discussed already how to start the business and then how to buy and sell your business. Okay, and now after this session you will continue to the franchising. Franchising is somewhat between the business starting from the scratch or buying existing businesses, franchisings. Wow, that will continue for next session. Thank you very much.